This is one of the finishing blocks of the Designer Mystery Block of the Month. So we got 5 of these done today. Hey, this is Carrie with Canary Quilts, and please excuse the voice. I am recovering from COVID. It sucks. Anyway, what I have done today is part of the finishing kit for the Designer Block of the Month. It's an exclusive fat quarter quilt kit, and it comes in a box with all the fabrics that you need to finish the quilt. The backing comes separate, but you get everything to bind it and to build the quilt top. And then once a month you are sent your fabrics and the design for that month. So this is month 1, 2, 3, and 4. But what I'm doing today is I'm going through there's 2 finishing blocks that you have to do. This is one of them. This is what I'm calling the Ohio Star. I don't think they've named these finishing blocks, but it looks like an Ohio Star to me, so that's what I'm calling it. And I'm just going to walk you through how I mass produced this. There's 5 of them, and we put this block together. The other thing I do is I cut up all my material for all the finishing blocks. So I go through that also, as well as walking through this block. But this is a really pretty block, and it was really fun to put together. So if you're new here, hit the subscribe button, notification bell, and you'll get notified as I put up the other finishing block, as I put up the rest of the months. I think there's 8 more months of this to go. And you can follow along if you're doing this, or if you're not, you can see a beautiful quilt go together over the next 8 months. Plus, we got lots of other things going on here too. So I got other quilt alongs. I've got some patterns that I put out. So hit the subscribe button, notification bell, and we'll have a good time here in this channel. But anyway, let's get started. So if you were wondering how these came, so if you want to do it next year also, if you want to know how these came, this is what it looks like. I got this from Fat Quarter Shop. This is a beautiful box. And it comes with the picture of the first block on the front, on the inside. And block 1 did come with the box. They sent you some alpha bitties because there is a lot of cuts in this. And I've opened the fabric. I haven't done any cutting. There's block 1, which I do have a video out for that. And then here is the finishing kit. So it gives you the fabrics for the entire quilt, for finishing the entire quilt. But then you get fabrics for the individual blocks when they send them to you each month. So the finishing kit is going to show you how to do these 2 blocks here. And it's going to have you cut everything for all these blocks too. So you'll be cutting the borders or the sashing, I guess, for all the blocks that you don't know what's coming. So yeah. There's not too much here because there's just 2 blocks, but the fabric was wrapped in this nice string here, and I unfolded that. That's the background fabric. It was huge, and I unfolded it and got it ready for cutting. And then they just give you what you need to make the finishing kit. All the fabrics you need. And my experience with buying things through Fat Quarter Shop is you get a lot of fabric. So my guess is there's going to be a good amount of leftover fabric in this. But we'll see at the end. We'll know next year when we're done. But anyway, I wanted to show you what the box looked like, and I am going to start cutting all of my finishing kit up and putting it with my alpha bitties so that as I go along I can grab what I need. I am not going to show the cutting because there is just, you can obviously see we get into double letters here. That would take too long, but I think it's mostly just squares and strips and stuff like that, so not too hard. I will show you when I'm done. So yeah, there you go. That's what the box looks like before we get started. Okay, here's the start of our background cuts. So we have A, B, and C, which are just 3 different sized squares. And there's 10, 5, and 8. Then we have a D, which is 20 rectangles. And then we have E, which is an 8 more smaller squares than the other 2. Now this is out of order. This is P, but in my next one I'll show you there's a bunch of strips that we cut, and then we cut P, which is 40 of these small squares. And I also want to start by showing you how much of this background fabric is left. I mean, there's over a yard left of this background fabric. So got plenty of that fabric. Got plenty of fabric altogether. Yeah, there you go. There's the beginning of our background cuts. Okay, the last of the background fabric is F through O. And we have 8 of all of these right here, and you can see that they just progressively get smaller. And then we have N and O, one's longer than the other, and we have, I think, 20 or 24 of these. Let me look. 24. 24 each of these. 8 of all of these. So now we've gotten out of the background and we're getting into our print. So we have Q and R and S, and Q and S are the same size. And then we have 40 of these little T's here, and I put them here so you could see them, so that they didn't get lost down here. But we have quite a few of these R's. I think 8 of each of these. But there's a little bit of this fabric left, but if you only need, you know, little squares, there's plenty there. And then I think, nope, this is left over. Yeah, this is left over from cutting these squares out. That's good. And then the R's and the S, or the Q's and the R's, are the same fabric. And this one I did cut wrong. So I have an entire strip of one that was cut too small. But I do have a strip big enough in case I make an error. So okay, we have U, V, W, X, Y, and Z. And as you can see, as you go through these fabrics, they just get progressively shorter. There's the same amount of cuts, but like I said, this one's the longest, this one's the shortest. And so this is how much is left from the long fabric. This is folded. And then I have quite a few ends. And oh, I cut an extra strip. So what I would try to do is cut my strips, and then if I could, utilize them, the ends of the strips if I could. So that's what's left from these longer strips. This is what's left from the shorter Y's and X's, or W's and X's. Not too bad. Make a mistake and cut some more. And then Y and Z has quite a bit left. That would make a pretty shirt. Okay, here are cuts AA through FF. So the greens are just strips or rectangles cut in 2 different sizes, and there's this much fabric left in case you make a mistake. Not too bad, and some ends that I may or may not save. And then double C and double E are the same size, but there's twice as many of double E's. And then double D's and double F's are the same size, but there's like 3 times or 4 times as many as these. I think 3. So this is what's left from C and D. And then there's quite a bit left from double E and F. I think because of all these cuts. But yeah, there's a lot of that fabric left. So I've lumped these together because they're 3 different fabrics, but they're the same shapes from each fabric. So they're just rectangles, a longer one and a shorter one from these 3 different fabrics, and this is what's left from the fabrics. We got some ends of the strips, and this is folded over, so that's what's left from those 3 fabrics, and this is what GG through LL will look like when it's cut. And finally, here are the binding cuts. There's 9 with the fabric strips, and this is what's left. It's folded in half. Okay, I want to get started working on the finishing kit for the Designer Mystery Block of the Month for 2022. And I am going to work on one of the blocks. There's 2 finishing blocks. This is going to be one of them. So they don't name their blocks. So this is going to be the corner blocks here and the center block. It looks like an Ohio star. So that's how I may refer to it, as like an Ohio star, because the other one's more like a log cabin. But I want to walk through the fabrics I've pulled for this block, and then we can start cutting. We need to cut some blocks up, and then we can start putting it together. Okay, to walk through these pieces I've got here, I have A, Q, and S. And I have 10 A's, 5 Q's, and 5 S's. And that's what we're going to use to build the inside of this Ohio star. We're going to be cutting these up before we start putting them together. So then the R and the B is going to be, the B is going to be the centers of our blocks, and we have 5 of them. And the R is going to be the corners here of the Ohio star block. And we have got 20 of these cuts. So then the little squares here, which we have 40 of each color, are going to be right down here to make these 4 patch corners. And then we have 20 of the strips here. They're going to border our Ohio star. So that's our cuts that we need to do these 5 finishing blocks. So the first thing we want to do is we need to cut A, Q, and S into quarters. So let me get ready to do that and we'll come back. Okay, to get started with A, Q, and S, we are going to cut all of these pieces exactly the same way. So I'm going to start with A. So you need a rotary cutter and you need a ruler that's big enough to go on the diagonal. And we are going to cut it on this diagonal and then this one. So we will end up with 4 pieces from all of our cuts, and we will have 40 triangles in the end. So carefully cut on the diagonal, pick it up and turn it, and cut on the diagonal again. And then I'm going to, since this background is so hard to figure out, make sure that I've got my right sides up when I stack these up. So there's 4. And we're going to do the exact same thing to all 10 of the background. Okay, I've got my A squares cut into quarters, so I have 40 triangles now. I have made sure that my right sides on all my triangles are facing up, because this is a very hard fabric to tell which is the right and wrong side. And then I put my A back so that I know this is the top of my fabric. So we're going to move on to Q. Q is going to be cut exactly the same way. except we'll only end up with 20 triangles in the end and not 40. So I'm going to get my cues cut. There we go. It's the exact same thing as A. Cut them into triangles. We'll put them right sides up. We'll put our cue back on top. And when we get all these cut, we'll have 20. Okay, I got my cues cut up. And I have 20 triangles now. I'm going to put them with my A's. And we're going to pull our S's in. Again, same thing. Cut these on the diagonal. And we are going to end up with 40 of these also. So that's what they're going to look like. Again, put them face up. Ooh, I must be getting a bad, my blade must be needing to be changed, I should say. Should put these all face up also, and I'm going to get the rest of these done, and like I said, in the end we'll have 20 of these. Okay, we're ready to start assembling our block now that we have all of these cut. What we will want to do is put together rows, basically. So we're going to put together an A and a Q and an A and an S so that then we can put these rows together. So the way I'm mass producing these is we're going to have to make 20 of these blocks. So I have 20 of A's in this pile and 20 A's in this pile. And of course I got 20 in each of these. So I'm going to be able to just pick these up, know which side to put together, and take it over to my machine. Pin the side I'm going to sew so I can get 20 of these, and then I can make 20 of these, and then we'll have those ready to go to put together in the blocks. So one thing to remember also is that you will always be ironing away from the background or towards the blue, whichever way you want to remember to do it. But remember, when you bring your finished piece back over, just always iron away from the background or towards the blue on both sides here. So here and here, always away from the background towards the blue. And then when we put these together, we'll have nested seams. So that's how I'm going to do it. I'm going to put these together. I'm going to grab them, take them to my machine, and sew them. So I'm just going to leave them here. I'm going to start with these, and I'm going to grab them, pin the side I'm going to sew, take them to my machine, and start chain piecing them together. Okay, I've finished chain piecing my A and Q pieces. I'll cut those and iron them when I'm done with these. We're going to do the same thing down here where we take our A and our S. We're going to put them together along the side that we need to sew. Pin that side, take it over to your machine, and sew 1/4 inch on that side. Okay, I finished chain piecing my crosshatch blue and my floral blue pieces. So now I'm going to cut these apart and we can start ironing these out. And remember, we are going to be ironing towards the blue side of this row on both of these. That will give us opposing seams and make it so that we can nest our rows together. Give us a nice point in the middle. So grab your floral piece and iron it towards the blue. And it makes a nice half a square. So we will get all of those ironed. Okay, I got all my blue florals here ironed towards the blue side, and I'm going to do the same thing here with my crosshatch half. I'm going to iron towards that blue crosshatch side. Okay, I've got my 2 halves ironed. Always iron towards the blue or away from the background, however you want to remember it. And now we have opposing seams right here in the center, so that when we take our 2 halves and put them together, that seam in the middle will nest beautifully, give us a beautiful point. So we want to pin that, and I'll pin a couple of these, and then we can take it over to our machine and we will sew that up at 1/4 of an inch. So you can feel when those seams nest into place. It's just like a snap. Just snaps right in. Makes it nice and flat. So, pin the side you're going to sew, nest your seams. We'll sew these at 1/4 of an inch. And then we're going to come back and we are going to iron towards the floral side of this. Alright, I got my center squares sewn together and I chain pieced those, so we are going to have 20 of these in the end. I'm going to get these cut apart and then we are going to come back and we are going to be ironing towards the floral side of this block. So, let's set our seam and then just take our block and open it and iron it towards that floral side. I don't know how well you can see in it. I'll try to zoom in, see that beautiful point. That's what nesting your seams does. Just turned out gorgeous. But anyway, let's get all of these ironed out and then we can start to continue with our block construction. Okay, I've got all of my hourglass blocks ironed towards the floral side. So now what we want to do is come in here and trim these up to 4.5 inches. And what I do is I take my little block or my little ruler and I have this 45-degree line, which I put on that seam in the middle. Putting my 4.5 inch mark down here, making sure I have 4.5 inch coverage on the sides. And then I'm just going to trim it up. Flip it. Put my 4.5 inch mark down here. Make sure my line, 45-degree angle, is on the seam. And I have 4.5 inch is lined up here on the sides also. And then trim it up. That's how we're going to trim up all these blocks. So we got 20 of those to do. Okay, I finished squaring up these hourglass blocks. And now I have separated the hourglass blocks into piles of 5 blocks. And then I've set them here in the center of each row with the floral pointing towards the middle. So I have 5 of them in each of these piles. I have 5 of my B fabric because that's all we cut. Just lay your B squares in the middle and then separate your R's into 4 piles of 5, and those are going to go in the corner. So I have 5 blocks laid out in front of me. So we're going to put this is a 9 patch, we're going to put this together in rows. And we're always going to, once we get the pieces sewn together, we're always going to iron towards the solid patches. So always iron towards the solid patches. So we're going to start putting together our blocks. And again, I am going to chain piece these. Pin the side you're going to sew because we don't want this to get messed up. And just start pinning these together so you can take them over to your machine. Always make sure you got right sides together. All right, so I'm going to get all of these sewn at 1/4 inch, then I'm going to bring it back and I'm going to be ironing towards the solid patch on all of these. Okay, I'm going to be chain piecing my 9 patch together. Just keep in mind you're always going to be sewing the side that you've pinned. Okay, got all my squares sewn together, just separating them out from chain piecing, and we are going to start ironing all these towards the solid patch or away from the hourglass. We all have different ways of thinking of things, and so that's 2 ways of thinking about it: away from the hourglass or towards the solid patch. Okay, I've got all my pieces back in place, and we're going to do exactly the same thing with these, the other side of these rows. We're going to put them together. We are going to sew them on at 1/4 inch. Make sure you pin the side you're going to sew, and then we're going to come back and iron it towards the patch, the solid patch again. So iron it this way, iron it this way, and iron it this way. So I'm going to get my rows done, and then we'll come back, put our rows together. All right, we got our rows done in our 9 patch. So all my, the ironing that I've done here is these rows are ironed towards the corner solid patches. Center row is ironed towards the center solid patch. So we have opposite seams here. So let's start putting the first row and the center row together, and we're going to match up those seams. Get them nested nice and pretty, so we get beautiful points there. And I always do my seams first, and then I match up my edges. And then we are going to sew this and iron. We're always going to iron towards the outside of the block or away from that center row. So let's get our first couple rows put together. We'll get it ironed away from the center row and come back and put our 3rd row on, and this center 9 patch will be done, and we can trim this block out and we'll be done. Okay, I got my top and center row put together, and we are ironing all of these away from the center row. The center row has that background patch in the middle. Okay, there's the top half of our Ohio star. Going to do exactly the same thing with the bottom half. You're going to put it on. We are going to nest these seams. We're going to sew it, and we're going to iron it away from that center row, just like we did. So I'm going to get these put on, and then I will come back here and show you what this center block looks like, and we'll begin to trim this block out. Okay, I got my 9 patch Ohio stars done. This is basically the center of this block. We're going to trim it out now, but I've ironed all my 2 seams that I just did are ironed towards the outside of the block. So we're ready to go. We got our nice little floral square in there. So it looks great. Pretty simple. It's going to take a little bit of time, but we need to put all of these together. We need to take our T's and our P's right here, and we need to just put these all together. And we don't have to lay this block out, because this block is going to be, and I'll show you, it'll be laid out like this. But we can, all we have to do is we have to just sew all of these together, and then we can just flip the row around to make the block that we need. So you don't need to lay your block out. You can just put all of them together, make sure your right sides are together, chain piece these suckers, and come back. We'll iron everything towards the dark, or the blue, the dark fabric, and then we'll lay it out and put it together as a 4 patch. So let's go ahead, let's put all of these together and come back, we'll get them ironed and put our cornerstones together. We're just going to chain piece all these T's and P's together. Okay, I got all my P and T patches put together, getting them separated, and then we're going to iron these towards the blue. So now we can take all our pieces here and just iron them all towards that blue patch. Okay, I got all my P's and T's sewn together. They're ironed and they are ironed towards the blue. So now we just want to put them together, and two of them in opposite directions like that, where we're going to put them together and nest those seams. So just make sure if the seams aren't nested, they're not in the right position. So it's a good way to remember it. Just pick up two, flip one, nest those seams, pin it, and we are going to sew it. And then when we're done, we're just going to iron it in one direction. So I'm going to get all of these put together. I'm going to chain piece them, and then I'll come back and we can get them ironed open, and then we're in the finishing stages of this. Woohoo! Okay, I got all my 4 patches put together. Gonna get these separated, and we are just gonna iron all of these just to one side. Okay, I've grabbed my D strips here, and these are all my cornerstones ironed to one side, and now we're going to just take our cornerstones and we're going to put them on both sides. So what we want to do is make sure that the blue is in the bottom corner. So just make sure when you're putting this together, they're not opposite of each other. They're in the same position on each side. And I'm going to make sure mine are in the bottom corner. So we can put both of these on, pin it, and what I'm just going to do is I'm going to get these ready until I run out of these. And then the rest of the strips will be used on our large Ohio Star block. Okay, I've got all my cornerstones set, and you should have 10 strips here with a cornerstone on each side ready to go and sew. And then the rest of these will go onto the block. So this is going to be the short side border. These will be the long side borders. So we're going to get these ironed. I'll always do that. We're going to get these sewn, and then we are going to iron towards the strip. Okay, I got my cornerstones on each side of my strip, and what we're going to do is we are going to iron this seam towards the strip. Just like that. So we're making our long border strip basically. Okay, I just finished doing the long strip of our border for our block. All seams are ironed towards this strip right here. So I have 5 here, I have 5 here, I have 5 of my blocks made of center. Then I have 5 each of this border that's going to go on this block. So what we're going to do first is we're going to put this border onto our block, and then we're going to sew it on, and then we're going to iron towards the border. So once that's done, then we can put this border on, and these seams where they meet will be nested. So let's put right sides together, no seams to match. Get your border on. We'll take it over and sew it on. We are getting towards the end, peoples. We're getting there. So there we go. I'm just going to take these and get them attached, and then I'm going to take them over and sew them, and we'll come back and iron them. Alright, so I've got the short borders on my block right here, and we are going to iron towards that strip. Just like that. That's going to set us up so that when we put the long strip on, we will have a nested seam in that corner. So there we go. Finish up the other 5, and then we'll come back and put on our long strips. All right, got my strips or borders, whatever you want to call them, sewn on and ironed towards the border on all 5 of these blocks. We are on the last step. Yes! So we're going to take our long strip here that we made, flip it over, right sides together, and you are going to put these seams together, and you're going to nest those babies. And then we will get this one sewn on, and we will iron towards the strip, just like we did here. So that's how we put these on. Nest these seams right here. This strip and this strip are going to have nested seams. So now that we have these seams nested together, we can take these over to our machine and we can get them sewn on at 1/4 of an inch, bring them back, iron them towards the strip. So yeah, we're almost done. Okay, I got my long border put on. I've ironed this first one, and we're ironing it towards the strip. So let's turn this one over and we'll iron this one out. It's a big block. So there we go. That's what our block looks like when it's done. So this was really fun to put together. I really enjoyed it. I like the block. I like the look of it. It's not too hard to put together. Very similar to an Ohio Star block, if not exactly like an Ohio Star block. So, yeah. Let me know how yours is going. Have you even started these? If you haven't, you can save this video and watch it when you get to yours. Or you're just watching this quilt go together because it's going to be beautiful in the end. So, yeah. Shoot me a comment down below. Head over to my Facebook page and show me a picture of your block if you've got it done in the comments of this post. Or I'm part of the Facebook page that is for this quilt along. So I'll be putting my blocks up. I'll probably be seeing everybody else's blocks as they go. It's always fun. Some people do different colors in different places in their blocks. So it's always fun to go see what other people do. But these are just going to go into storage till we get to the end of quilt here. We got a few more months. We got a good probably 7, 8 more months. 8 months, I think. I think there's 12 mystery blocks, and we just did 4. We just did number 4. So yeah, probably 8 more months. There is one more finishing block. Not exactly sure when I'll get to that, but that is a log cabin type block. Kind of looks like it has an Ohio star in the middle of it. So it's probably a little bit more difficult of a block, maybe a little more time consuming. This one didn't take me too long, and I did all 5 at once, as you saw. So hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell. You'll be notified the next time I put up either the next monthly block or when I put up the second finishing block. And you can see how that goes together. If you're just watching, that's great. If you're putting it together, that's great. Check out the links below for the fabrics. I've got links to the other patterns that use these fabrics. And I've got links of all the products I use in this video. If you see something you like or something that will help you be more efficient, check it out below. It really does help to check the links out. So, I enjoyed putting these blocks together. I enjoyed making this video, and I'll see you in the next. Bye!